This Week in the Boardroom, brought to you by NYSE Governance Services Corporate Board Member, along with Governance Knowledge Partners, the Center for Audit Quality, and Grant Thornton, and contributing partners, National Investor Relations Institute, and the Society of Corporate Secretaries and Governance Professionals.
Welcome to this edition of This Week in the Boardroom. I'm TK Kerstetter, Chairman of NYSE Governance Services Corporate Board Member, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the show today. We're going to be looking at audit quality indicators. And joining me, as is very appropriate to cover this topic, is Cindy Fornelli, who's the Executive Director for the Center of Audit Quality.
There you go.
Audit Quality Indicators, Center of Audit Quality.
There you go.
Makes sense. So, this sounds like an easy topic, but if my memory serves me correctly, this has not been an easy topic, and that, in fact, everybody has been regulators and everybody's been trying to put their arms around this. But the Center for Audit Quality now has come up with an approach for this and just released something. So you guys have been busy. So tell us about what's being released.
Certainly. So thank you for having me. It's great to be able to get in front of this audience because, as you'll hear, the boardroom is a very important place, I think, for audit quality indicators. So, but going to your question about how difficult this is something that the Center for Audit Quality has been looking at for the past 2 years. And you're right in that other regulators across the world have also been looking at this. The Financial Reporting Council in the United Kingdom, the IAASB, which is an international standard-setting body, has been looking at this. And we're going back dozens of years, if you will. People looking at trying to define audit quality and coming up with a set of metrics or indicators that would help boards or other stakeholders understand audit quality. So we've come up with an approach that we've just published. We're very interested to get feedback on it. We're actually going to pilot test it. And it's pretty exciting, but as you said, it's very, very difficult.
Now, I think I remember seeing in the release stuff that you're not specifically defining what audit quality is. So, but there is, you are talking about the relationship between the external auditor and the audit committee. Sort of fill me in on that.
Sure.
Am I correct?
You are correct. We have not come up with a definition of audit quality. We spent about a year trying to come up with a definition of audit quality, and it was very, very difficult, as you might imagine. That process very much lined up with that old adage, don't let the perfection be the enemy of the good. And about a year ago, June in 2013, I presented where we were in our journey thus far to IFIAR. It's the international group of audit and accounting regulators. So it's the PCAOBs of the world, if you will. And was talking them through what we were thinking of what the components of a definition would be. And several of them raised their hands and said, this is probably a fool's errand. We would recommend that you not get hung up on a definition and move on to the actual indicators themselves. So we took that advice, and that is indeed what we've done. Now, when I say we, I do want to point out that we haven't done this alone at the CAQ. We have what we call our Stakeholders Advisory Panel that is comprised of representatives from the key stakeholders. So we've got board members on there, including audit committee members. We have investors. We have preparers. We obviously have auditors, former regulators, academics. So this is a group of individuals that have been with us along on the journey from the very beginning, giving us guidance and giving us input. And then in January, we had a roundtable where we had 20 audit committee chairs sitting around the table with us, talking to us and giving us feedback on the set of metrics that we came up with. Because our approach, after looking at this over the past 24 months, is a set of metrics that are largely on the engagement team level, as opposed to the firm-wide metrics, although there are some firm-wide metrics to give context to the engagement team metrics, and they're being reported to the audit committee because we feel that that makes the most sense since the audit committee is the one with direct oversight of the audit who's responsible for hiring, firing the engagement team and having responsibility for helping to make sure that there is a quality audit.
Yeah. So help us get our arms around sort of exactly what you're talking about. I mean, there's a relationship between, what is the relationship between audit quality and the indicators? And then can you give me some examples of?
Yes. So we tried to come up with quantitative metrics as opposed to qualitative metrics. And I'll walk you through the 4 areas and give you a flavor of some of the metrics that we've come together. One thing that it's important to note is that there's no one single metric that is going to give you an indication of audit quality, but rather you have to take them together as a whole. And the other thing that's really important to understand about these metrics is there has to be a discussion with the audit committee and the engagement team about these metrics. You can't just look at them as a metric and not have a dialogue and not get some context around what these metrics may mean and what the audit committee needs to understand about them. And so you can't do that just by looking at a set of numbers or a set of metrics. And so that's another reason why we thought reporting the indicators to the audit committee was so important because then you can have that dialogue and that metric and that discussion. But the 4 big areas that we've developed, and again, this is drawing on the work that's been going on around the globe for the past several years, is firm leadership and tone at the top. And that is one broad bucket of information that is hard to come up with a quantitative measure. So that is more qualitative. But what does the firm's top management, how do they talk about audit quality? How do they embed that throughout the work that the engagement teams do? The second big area is engagement team knowledge, experience, and workload. And so this is trying to get out what do the members of the engagement team, how much experience do they have? So these metrics would include trend in total engagement hours, internal specialist and national office consultations. There are metrics around those. The 4th big area is monitoring. And that is what does the firm do to monitor the engagement teams, both in terms of internal quality control inspections, so firms themselves will have inspections, as well as PCAOB inspections, and making sure that the audit committee understands what's happened in that. And then the 4th one is auditor reporting, and this is more of an external factor such as reissuance restatements. So there's about a dozen or so metrics. Again, you look at them as a whole, but one of the things we're going to do is we're going to field test them or pilot test them to see if these indeed will help audit committees get a better handle on audit quality with respect to the engagement team.
So you made reference to the PCAOB. I did a little homework on the front end of this, and they're also working on an effort in this. So, and I think they plan a release coming up. So tell me how yours works in conjunction with theirs, or does it?
It does, and they indeed are planning on issuing a concept release in the next month or two, where they will ask the marketplace their thoughts on audit quality indicators. I don't think they're going to have a point of view, it's my understanding, but rather they will ask a series of questions. So it'll be very important for This Week in the Boardroom viewers to weigh in to the PCAOB when they put out their concept release. It's also my understanding that they're going to have at least one, if not a series of roundtables, and I think board members and audit committee members will be invited to that. So I would encourage This Week in the Boardroom viewers to try to participate in that if invited. But we have been very, very transparent with the PCAOB on our approach. We've had a number of conversations, both formally and informally, with the people who are working on it at the PCAOB. I again, just a few weeks ago, in early April, presented to IFER again our point of view. So we've been very transparent. We're though several months ahead of the PCAOB. We started our project before they did, so we're just a little bit further along on our journey than they are.
So what's next? You just mentioned you're further along in the project, but what's next within the project?
Well, we think it's really important to field test it, as I mentioned. And so over the summer and fall, we are going to be working with a select group of engagement teams and their audit committees to pilot test our set of metrics to find out, are these helpful to audit committees, right? If our objective is to give audit committees information and indicators of audit quality, are these the right set of metrics? What would they change in what they receive? Also to see how easy it is to extract the information. Is an audit firm able to extract the information across the firm and across all of their audit committee, all of their engagement teams. So I think these are important things with respect to pilot testing. So I view this as a long journey. We're 2 years in, but I think we're going to be refining this for years to come.
Well, obviously we're going to want to hear what happens with your, quote, field test. And that, I mean, this is going to be important for audit committees, so it is information that we're interested in passing along once you get that. And we're also interested in hearing how the blend with the PCAOB.
Right, what their approach may be.
And the center. So you've got a lot to come back to report on.
I do. This is just the beginning. And it feels funny saying that, given that we've been doing this for 2 years, and this is just the beginning. But this is a hard thing to do. It's an important thing to do. And so I do really think it's a process and a journey. So more to come.
Well, we have a big following in the, of people that serve on the audit committee. So we want to make sure that we don't drop the ball here and make sure that we're keeping everybody up to speed on what's happened. It's a good tool, I think, to do that with.
Well, I think that's an important point. While the metrics are aimed at the audit committee, and it's just one tool for audit committees to use. They obviously have the required communications by the PCAOB. Many firms are now putting out audit quality reports, but I think it's probably going to be important for the entire board to at least understand the project and the audit quality indicators. So I would expect, even if you're not on an audit committee, as these go into effect, whether it's done voluntarily or mandated by the PCAOB, that the entire board would be interested in it. Remind
our viewers where they can go for information on the CAQ and stuff.
Yes, so if you go to the CAQ, THECAQ.org, you will find our approach to audit quality indicators. And then as we go through the pilot testing and get those results, over the next 12 months or so, we will update where we are on that journey and our findings, as well as information about the PCAOB's project.
And when that happens, we'll have you back to update that.
Okay.
So
looking forward
Cindy.
to it. Thank you, TK.
And that will conclude this edition of This Week in the Boardroom. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back again next week where we take another look at a critical topic that'll help you be a better board member or committee member. So we'll see you then.
Join us again next week for This Week in the Boardroom. Brought to you by NYSE Governance Services, Corporate Board Member, along with Governance Knowledge Partners, the Center for Audit Quality, and Grant Thornton, and contributing partners, National Investor Relations Institute, and the Society of Corporate Secretaries and Governance Professionals.